Hello friends, welcome to my channel. This is Charan. In this video tutorial, I will explain in ASP.NET Core Blazor application using Razor components how to add data dynamically into a drop-down list element from SQL Server database. And here we got the final output. Let's open the DDL. Notice here the DDL binding component. We got the select option element. Let's open that one. See here the India, USA and Australia. They have binded the data from SQL Server database from the country table in this drop-down list element using Blazor components in ASP.NET Core. That's it. If you are a first-time visitor to my channel, please subscribe to get the latest updates. Before creating a new application, first we'll check a table in SQL Server Management Studio. The table name is a country which contains two columns, CID and CNAME. Now my aim is I want to bind this CNAME, the country names column, into a drop-down list element in ASP.NET Core Blazor application on Razor components. And this table I have created in this Charan database. So let's write the coding part. For this video tutorial, I'm creating a new Blazor application. So I'm creating a new project. From the project templates, I'm selecting the Blazor app, then click next. Let's give the project name is Blazor binding drop-down list is the project name, and I'm saving this project in this folder, the D drive. Let's create this project. After that, let's select this Blazor server app, click create. And here we got the application is created successfully. Let me close this default window. Now before writing the coding part in this project, first we'll check the basic output, how it looks at designing part on the browser, this Blazor application. So run this application. And here we got the default output of our Blazor application. This is a Razor component and this is a layout. And if you notice at the layout, the panel, at the side panel, there are some new navigation links. Now my aim is I will create one new navigation link. When a user click that link, it will open a new component, Razor component. In that component, I want to display the drop-down list control. So let's first add that thing. Switch over to the project. Let's stop this application. Come to the bottom. In the project, there is a shared folder. Open that one. In the shared folder, there is nav menu.razor. Open that one. Here you can find those links. So I'm creating one more list item for the link. The list item here is a drop-down list. I'm adding DDL. And this one is binding drop-down list. So after that, in the pages folder, I'm creating one Razor component. So first let's expand this pages folder. If you notice in this pages folder, there are some default Razor components and some CSS file. So let's add our Razor component. Select the pages folder, right click the mouse, add. I'm selecting the Razor component. This component name is DDL binding. Click add. And here we got our Razor component, DDL binding. So if you want, you can change the heading also, but for this example, I'm leaving as it is only. And now the next step is very important. When a user clicks its link DDL, I want to open this Razor component. So for that we require the page directory. So I'm adding at the top at page between double quotes / and the file name is a binding DDL. Copy that one and paste here. That's it. Let's check the output. And here we got our new output. So notice here we got our new link DDL. Let me click that one. See here we got the Razor DDL binding component. Now in this component I am adding one select option element which is a drop down list, and that drop down list binding with the this country names. So stop debugging. Now the next step is, when we want to dealing with a particular database, we require some necessary packages of that database. So let's install those packages here into our project. Before installing those packages, first notice in the dependencies folder, expand that one. Notice in this dependencies folder there is no any packages folder. So now let's install those packages. Select the application name, right click the mouse, go to manage NetJet packages, then go to browse and search for entity framework. And here we got the results. I'm selecting Microsoft.Entity Framework Core. I'm selecting that one. Click install. Then click OK. Let's accept this license. And this package is installed successfully. Notice here we got this packages folder in this dependencies folder. Let me expand this packages folder. See here the Microsoft.Entity Framework Code. This package is installed successfully. I need some more packages, which is the SQL Server, Microsoft.Entity Framework Code.SQL Server, because I want to connect to SQL Server. So I'm selecting this package, click install. Okay, let's accept the license. And here this SQL Server package is also installed successfully. And after that we require these tools also, because we are using Entity Framework Core. So I require the tools. Click install. Okay, I accept. And here the tools package is also installed successfully. After adding these three packages, let's minimize this dependencies folder, and also let's close this NetJet package window which we don't require anymore. Now we'll create one new class in this data folder. So select the data folder, right click the mouse, add class, and the class name is, let's give this country class. And here we got our country class. This country class is a simple POCO class which contains some properties on it. So those properties, if we check in our database, this country table contains two columns, CID and CNAME. So I require two properties. So let's add those ones. I'm adding the key method. Notice here when I add key method, the system.component model.data annotations is added. So after that, prop double tap, it will create the property. The first property is an integer type only, so I'm leaving the default integer type and I'm changing the property name to CID. And the second property is a string type, which is a string CNAME for the country name. So after adding these two properties, next step we require the DB context class. So that DB context class will add in the same folder, in the data folder only. Right click the data folder, add, go to click the class, and the class name is application DB context. Enter. And here we got our application DB context class. Now let's inherit the DB context class in this application DB context class. Colon, when we want to inherit, we need to add colon here, DB context. Notice here when I try to access the DB context, the intelligence not showing that class name. The reason we have not import that namespace. So DB context class belongs to using Microsoft.Entity Framework Core. So first let's import that namespace in our class. Now we can access this DB context. After that, let's create the let's create the constructor of this class. In this constructor I am adding DB context options. In these options I am adding my application DB context, DB, where it is. So we'll add again application DB context, options, colon base. I'm adding options. Now after that, the next step is very important. Here I am creating one property, prop double tab, and this property is the DB set. We are connecting the database. So DB set, that set the entity types. These entity names we are getting from this country class. So this country class is inside our data folder. So let's add that folder name here using Blazor binding DDL, which is our project name dot data folder column. And here now I can access the country class. And the property name here the property name is very important. We need to add this country name. Copy that one and paste here. That's it. Now we require the database connection string. So to get the proper database connection string, before that let's open app settings.json file, where here in this JSON file we'll add our connection string. So first let's add connection strings, connection strings colon add comma, because it's a JSON file, colon my connection is my connection name, colon. Now between these double quotes we'll add our connection string, the data source. So to get the proper data source of the SQL server, notice here the side panel we got some Server Explorer tab here. Open that one. In this Server Explorer there is data connections folder. Right click that one, add connection. The server name, my SQL server name is desktop. This one, let's add that one, desktop -pbudem. So after adding the server name in the database, notice here we got our databases from this server. So let's select the Charan database. The table I have created, this country table in the Charan database. See the country table in the Charan database. So I have selected the database name Charan, then click test connection. It succeeded. Okay. And here the Charan database is added successfully to this Server Explorer. And also notice the properties of this database. The connection string property contains the data source. Let's copy the data source and paste here between these double quotes. That's it. We have done the connection string part. After that, we require, and now the actual coding part comes here. Before that, we need to open startup.cs file. In the startup.cs file, first let's import this application DB context class using my application name dot pages folder. Here this application DB context class in the same data folder only. So here the data folder is added already. Now come to the bottom. Here in the configure services iService collection, let's add our services.db context. Add db context. In this add db context, I'm adding application db context colon options dot use SQL server. The use SQL server method belongs to Microsoft.entity framework, using Microsoft.entity framework code. So now we can access use SQL server. In this SQL server I'm adding server dot get now in this use SQL server method I'm adding configuration dot get connection string method. This get connection string method takes a string parameter name between double quotes I'm adding my connection string name, which is my connection. So this connection string is in the app settings.json file. Let's copy that connection string name and paste here. Let's close this parenthesis. That's it. After that, we are using Blazor components, so we require the services here. So let's add one new services folder. Select the application name, right click the mouse, add, click new folder. The folder name is a services. Enter. Inside the services, I'm adding one class here. The class name is the country services. Let's add this country services. Add. And here we got our country services. Now in this class, I want to add the application DB context class. So we require using Blazor my project name.data. Then here let's create the private read only my application DB context underscore DB context is a variable, is an object. Then let's create the constructor for this class, CTOR double tab. In this constructor, I am adding application DB context, my DB context class underscore DB, and here underscore DB context is equals to underscore DB. After that, now here we write the coding part. For that, we'll declare one method here to display the records public list class. In this list class, I'm adding the type of elements, the list items you're getting from this country class. So let's add this country class. Then we'll add the get countries. Then this function return underscore DB context dot, I'm adding my table name, which is a country dot. To get the all items from the table, we use toList method. That's it. It's a very single line to fetch the records from this country table. After that, now we'll add one razor component. So that razor component will add in this pages folder. If you notice, in this pages folder, we already added this DDL binding razor. So here in this razor component, we'll display the CNAME, the country names into the drop down list. So first we require at using my application name is Blazor dot data folder, and also we require the services also. So at using blazor.ddl.services folder. After that, here is most important. When we want to access a service in the country service, we have to access this get countries. In this DDL razor, we use at import inherits one component base. The T service is country services. This country services are adding. So these three steps are very important. So after adding these services, we need to register this service in startup.cs file. Come to the bottom, startup.cs file, open that one. Here in the configure services dot add scope colon, I'm adding country services colon. That's it. Now let's bind the data here. After DDL binding, I'm adding one simple horizontal line. After that, let's add the select element. In the select element, I'm adding the option. First option contains the label select country. This label I want to make it disabled, so selected disabled is equals to true. Then after that, I'm using for each loop to display all the records from the table because we have more than one record. So add for each loop variable item in. Here the object will add in the code between parentheses will create one function. First, let's add the list class. In this list class, I'm adding country class, the T elements we are getting from country class, and here we write the object is country obj. This COU object I am pasting here. After that, we'll add one protected override method. Protected override void on initialized method. See here, on initialized method, we got some default code here. Let's delete that one. Now here I'm adding COU object is equals to, I'm adding my service dot, the service name is get countries. If you notice here in the service, the get countries contains the code to fetch the records. Let's add that one, the country names, semicolon. That's it in this coding part. And for each loop, we require one new option here. At item dot. Notice here when I click at item dot, we got CName. The property name I want to display in this option. Let's add the tooltip for these items. I'm adding the title is equals to at item dot CName. That's it. We have done the complete coding part. Now it's time to check the results on the browser. Let's run this application. And here we got the final output. Let's open the DDL. Notice here the DDL binding component. We got the select option element. Let's open that one. See here the India, USA and Australia. We have binded the data from SQL Server database from the country table in this drop-down list element using Blazor components in ASP.NET Core. That's it.